Welcome back to my channel. This is Jacqueline Edwards, and as always, I am delighted you are here. So, this week we're going to get right into this week's topic, where I will be talking about destiny helpers and how God uses who and what He chooses to help us to get to the next step. And so these can be people, it could be place, it could be something that we read, something He will use. It doesn't matter what He uses to get us to our destination. And so for me personally, I have been really helped by God, whether it's just hearing His voice or the people that He has placed in my life to get me to the next step. Now, sometimes, people that come in our life, they may be there for a season or for a lifetime. But it's for us to use that discernment to understand this person came into my life to give me a gift, right? And so as I talk about destiny helpers, I hope what you will take away from this is that we have to have a heart to receive. A heart to receive. We can receive from anyone, but we have to have that open heart to receive the blessings that God will send into our lives. And these blessings can come from the east, the west, the north, and the south. We just got to be open and receptive. Okay? So, when we talk about destiny helpers, we can see in the Bible, we see Abraham and Lot. And even though Lot went off in his own way, you can see that because of Abraham, he was helped to a certain stage in a certain season, right? We see Ruth and Naomi. That is just a beautiful story right there, right? We see Jesus and John the Baptist, destiny helpers. John the Baptist has to baptize Jesus to get him to the next level, right? We also see it in the fish, how the fish had the coin in his mouth to pay the taxes, right? So we see that God uses people, He uses things. There's so many things I can flesh out of this. But the story I want to share with you is about David. Oh, I love David. I love David. So when I started reading the Bible, I think I shared many times that I struggle with learning. I struggle with learning most of my life. And it wasn't that I couldn't read. I could read, but because of the amount of trauma I went through and having to deal with so many different schools and the gaps I had in learning, I could not comprehend. And so when I started reading the Bible in my 30s, all I had to rely on was characteristics, right? I was looking to see, wait, let me see if I can see what this person is like and what led this person to do that. Let me see if I can go deeper so I can get a little bit of understanding. And so this is what David's story did for me, because as I was reading David's story, what stood out for me was that David was rejected. He was rejected. His brothers, his choice brothers, are in the main home, right? Daddy just sent him out to tend to the sheep. But in that state of rejection, I recognize that David, he went out and he was taking care of the sheep, but he wasn't bitter. He wasn't bitter. In the state of rejection, he found something I would call purpose, right? And so as he found this purpose tending to the sheep, I could see David taking them on walks through this lush mountainside, the green pastures, the still waters. Imagine how these sheep are so timid and they're so gentle and they're so fragile. And so they have to now depend on David for everything. So David became their protector. He became their provider. Oh my God, it's so much. It's so really loaded in this. I was just looking for those characteristics in David. But one of the things that I noticed about David is that he learned how to partner with the sheeps, right? So imagine somebody come along and they're just taking care of you. They're sharpening the stone and they're using the slingshot to fire off the lions and the bears that's coming to eat his timid sheep, right? So I can imagine how the reaction from the sheep were like, oh, David, I love you because you're protecting me. I could have been eaten, so wherever you tell me to go, I'm going to go, right? So David and the sheep had this partnership. And from that, I can see love. Because when somebody provides for you, when somebody protects you, when somebody leads you not to dry up grass, but to some green, lush grass, you love this person. So I see this love relationship, right? But I want you to stick with me in your imagination, because where I'm trying to go is how he developed all of that. Was so many characteristics coming out of that we can flesh out, but it's the relationship and the partnership between the sheep and David. So we all know the story about Goliath. But before I get there, I just want to stick a pin here to show you that those sheep, even though David was rejected, those sheep became his destiny helpers, because all these things that he had to do to protect the sheep and provide the sheep was a setup to reveal to David who he was, that he was actually the true king, right? Isn't this amazing? I mean, these characteristics, a leader, a provider, it's all characteristics of the king. Anyway, follow me here. So by the time he learned all those lessons, by the time he got to Goliath, and the very same thing, now God is going to use a stone to get him to where he needs to go. So even the stone becomes the destiny helper. So the stone that he's been doing all this protecting and everything, he was able to fire that thing and kill that thing. But here is, as we move forward, because you know the story about Goliath, so I'm not going to stay there. But as we continue to travel with David, and David now end up with Saul. Saul is the king. I want you to get this whole thing, that all these things, all these steps that David took were all destiny helpers. Now David had this song. He is singing this song. He's so full of melody and joy. And he's just, all the lessons he learned from being a shepherd brought him so much joy, right? So he knew now how to serve the king. He knew how to play his instruments and calm down the demons in Saul. And so he ended up in the palace. The king who didn't know who he was, the king who didn't know he was, developed these characteristics about him. Now those characteristics follow him into the palace. So David now learned how to be in the palace. He's now exposed because of his gifts, following him into another season of his life. So the king is now placed into the environment. Your environment is a destiny helper. So David now, being in the environment, he started to see what a king's supposed to look like. So God will lead us into places, and we have to be open to receive. Now, I love this, because in that palace, he now meets Jonathan. I love it. Jonathan is Saul's son. Now, Jonathan now becomes another destiny helper that helps David. So because now Jonathan is the son of a king, imagine now Jonathan knows certain ways a king in the, living in the palace, he knows how the king's supposed to be, or the son of a king. Now, because David learned partnership, he learned how to submit to relationship. He learned how to receive from the sheep. Now he's not rejecting Jonathan. He knows how to receive him. He knows how to partner with him. He knows how to really develop a friendship with him, just like he did the sheep. So now, Jonathan is now committed to help him, even, defiling his own father to help David. Oh my God, this is so amazing, because David he was on his journey to become, so God partnered him with Jonathan. But what I love about this is when David learned so much about being a king from those relationships and being in the palace, that long after, when Jonathan died, David, who is now the king, go back. And the spirit of honor, where did he learn that? He learned that in the palace. He learned how to be a king and had the spirit of honor. And so long after Jonathan died, after Saul died, he went back and said, where can I find a relative? Where can I find someone so I can bless them for Jonathan's sake, for what Jonathan has done for me? So here we're coming into the spirit of honor. The story is so rich and it's so beautiful. But sometimes we have destiny helpers. We have to learn to look back and give back. We have to learn to look back and give back. Give back to the people who have helped us. So by the time he get to Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. By the time he get there, Mephibosheth, he don't know who he is. He had no idea what his dad had done for David. But David's like, where can I find someone so I can bless them for Jonathan's sake? And so this son is like, who am I? Am I like a dog that you should come looking for me? I mean, hear how he's describing himself, But David is like, no, no, no. You're not a dog in my eyes. You are the son of my best friend, and I'm about to bless you. Even though you may call yourself a dog, I'm about to honor you. I'm about to have this feast and put you at the head of the table. That story just was so loaded for me. And it has really taught me a whole lot about living. It has taught me how to receive people into my life, how I can become a destiny helper for someone. So I pray that this message bless you. I pray that you will open your heart to receive, to have that spirit of discernment, that God will use who he chooses and he use whatever he chooses for you to get to the next level. But I also hope that you get from this message to have a spirit of honor, to have a spirit of honor, to have the heart to go back, to have the heart to compliment that person, to have the heart to be inclusive, to have the heart to be open despite whatever you have gone through. Because we see that David was rejected, but he still had a purpose and he allowed himself to be open and to journey on until he became who God has predestined for him to be. I hope this bless you. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of this week. Until next time, later. Bye-bye.